What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Fantasy Football. I'm Blitz Link, and I'm with Bryce DeGroat. We're tackling our quarterback tiers now. We've had our running back tiers, we've had wide receiver tiers, we've done tight end tiers. It's finally time to tackle those quarterbacks and where you should be targeting these guys based on how we value them after free agency. We've had some major quarterback moves, and in the draft, Fernando Mendoza will be heading to the Raiders. So we should have a pretty clear picture on how we view these quarterbacks heading into the offseason. So, Bryce, without further ado, let's get into our tier list here. Who deserves to be in that S tier? And is potentially Josh Allen the only guy in that S tier?
That's a good point. I was gonna say Josh, and now that you say that, probably the only guy I would throw in there. Um, you can do a slight look over Lamar or someone like him, but I mean Josh is kind of in a tier of his own, especially when it comes to fantasy. I mean, 5 years since 2020, top two finish every single year. You can't ask much more than that. So, yeah, I think that should be Josh and Josh's only, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think, with Josh Allen at this point, we know it's either quarterback one or quarterback two. With Lamar Jackson, I think there was some signs of regression last season due to injury. He wasn't the same type of option in fantasy football specifically. So I think it's fair to say we're dropping Lamar down to that A tier. He still is up there in terms of the top three quarterbacks, but he's not Josh Allen. And, we have Lamar Jackson in this A tier. I do think he bounces back with his rushing production. I think it was a small sample size after the injury and Baltimore not having a great interior offensive line. Why this Ravens offense wasn't nearly as explosive, but I expect Lamar to return to form in 2026. And Bryce, what other quarterbacks would you potentially, throw in the mix with him here on this list?
I think we could put Burrow here.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, on the lower end. I don't know. I just always think about it like Burrow's like a guy that yeah, he can't really stay healthy, but he doesn't really have much rushing upside either. So you kind of got those two against him. But when this guy's on the field, like I don't even overthink it. Like DFS, any of those guys, I want Burrow. Like because the defense is so bad, he's always throwing. And he'll put up 25 points casually for you. So definitely on the lower end, but I'm a Burrow guy.
So I think if we're putting Joe Burrow in there, I think A tier has to be a bigger category because I almost think
Okay.
Lamar Jackson's like a slightly higher version of the next guys that we would put with Burrow, in my opinion. So I think
We
the way we do this,
If
we're
you
gonna
want
put
to, if we can move them down if you want. If you want to keep it a real short list.
yeah, okay, so let's do this. Let's go this. Burrow B. Let's go. Where is he? Okay, we'll talk about the regression with him, but wherever Drake May is, when I find him in front of my face somewhere, we're throwing Drake May in that category. May's the prototypical guy to where he had a great season coming off an MVP year, but there's question marks surrounding like the team itself. Like in the postseason, Drake May, I think, showed his true colors against top end defenses and where New England needed to add in the offseason. Is Romeo Dobbs going to cut it? No. Is the offensive line, who basically is returning, plus Elijah Vera Tucker going to be that much better? Probably not. It's AJ Brown or bust for me if I'm drafting Drake May at a premium this year.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Actually, I took a quick glimpse at just the quarterbacks. So I can refresh my brain. Those are the only two quarterbacks that would legitimately take over Joe Burrow. So, we if we keep Lamar solo, I'm cool with it. But I'm really only taking Allen and Lamar over Burrow when it comes to fantasy. So, we can keep him in B. I'm cool with that. That's where I stand on him there.
Let's do that
Um,
then.
okay, May loved him last year. This year, I'm probably avoiding him a little bit more, but let everyone else hop on the train a little bit late. But good spot. The next guy I want to talk about though is Jaden Daniels, because there's arguably not a quarterback in the league that has more rushing upside than him, and that's king when it comes to fantasy. We saw what he did in his rookie season last year. Unfortunately, got hurt, but this dude runs so well, so often, and I'm excited to see him back healthy again, and hopefully they can add another wide receiver or something for him. But yeah, JD I think deserves to be here.
Yeah, I like Jaden Daniels in this spot in this grouping with these guys. I think it makes a ton of sense. Like I think Jaden Daniels last year and the Commanders were just due for some regression. They didn't have a great roster entering last year, and I love what they did in terms of spending on the defensive side of the ball to make them more competitive. I do think they could be in a target for an offensive guy in the draft, which would be great for Jaden Daniels' value. A full healthy season from Daniels would go a long way, but I do think that when you're drafting Jaden Daniels, you have to take into the fact that this guy could potentially miss time. He's been a little bit injury prone last season, so it is concerns with Jaden Daniels with that, but the rushing upside is top tier with him. Now, for the next guy, I think he should be. You know what? No, let's throw. Are we on the
Um,
same page with Jalen Hurts? I think.
we are. That's what I was gonna
Okay,
say.
so this is what I'm gonna do. I think Mahomes deserves to be in his own B tier category, and then we go Jalen Hurts for the start of C tier. And here's my
Uh,
logic behind this. I think with Patrick Mahomes, it depends on how mobile he's going to be to open the season. Last year, the offense wasn't great by any means, but Mahomes' fantasy production bounced back for the first time in 2 seasons because he had career highs in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and the offense wasn't great as a whole, but 20 plus points per game as a quarterback. You drafted him as a QB6. He lived up to that and was really consistent in fantasy because he has the most volume out of any quarterback consistently. And I think with Mahomes, if he truly is a week one, ready to go type of guy, his rushing upside is not significantly falling off and he's still scrambling at a decent rate. There's no reason he couldn't be in that A tier, but there's still question marks with his health. So I think we put him in B tier until we have a for sure, Mahomes is ready week one. And then with Jalen Hurts, like the tush pushes disappeared touchdown wise last year for the Eagles with a little bit decreased offensive line. And his production in fantasy was abysmal. Like you paid a premium for Jalen Hurts, and you weren't rewarded for that. And I think going into this year's draft, if you're drafting Jalen Hurts, it shouldn't be until after these quarterbacks fall because Hurts is not putting up gaudy passing numbers. He's not going to put up gaudy passing touchdown numbers. He hasn't looked fast running the football in like 3 seasons. And if he doesn't have those tush push touchdowns, he's not that great in fantasy. So with Jalen Hurts, there's definitely some concerns entering this year.
I like that, and I'm glad we were on the same page there because I was thinking you might have threw him in there, and I'm just like, eh. But with that being said, I think this category can be pretty wide. I'm thinking there's like 6 guys that can fit in here, and you can argue they're all interchangeable. And this next guy, I'm gonna go with Jackson Dart because uh last year rookie season, but when he stepped in, he was fantasy what top 5
He was
quarterback.
he
I
was
mean, he was
awesome.
cute.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
awesome.
he was QB3 per dropback, which is just like it's a small sample size, but it still just shows how productive he was. And I really am a fan of this guy. I mean, I loved him heading into the draft, and I'm gonna continue riding him. Hopefully with the healthy neighbors, and now they get him in a legit tight end and likely. I'm excited for him, and I think he fits in this category completely, especially with his rushing upside.
Yeah, and Matt Nagy's had a lot of passing quarterbacks in his tenure, but he did have Justin Fields for 1 season where his rushing upside was still there for Fields and he was a valuable fantasy quarterback. So with Dart, I do think he's going to have that value on the leg. I mean, if they do wind up doing something crazy in the draft and drafting Jeremiah Love, a three-headed monster of Dart, Scatterboot, and Love on the ground, whew, that's going to be scary for a defense, and that is going to elevate Dart's value. But if he doesn't add that, you get Malik Neighbors coming back for a full season. That'll definitely help out his value. So I think Dart's right around this range. Another guy I want to put in there, Dak Prescott. I mean, he's the perfect late round quarterback. He has a ton of volume. He's going to get you those spike weeks with his passing production alone. Doesn't rely on his legs much. He was great last season. Dallas has great weapons around him. There's really not much to say with Dak Prescott except for he's a great low end one quarterback to target in drafts, and he's going to be a consistent option just based on his passing volume alone and the weapons around him.
Yeah, shout out Dak because I put my reputation on 2 players last year that I literally will tell anyone on the street that they're gonna go off, and it was Dak and Nico. Nico started too slow. He finished solid, but he started a little bit too slow for that to age. But Dak at least made me look smart. So shout out Dak. But Caleb Williams is my next guy. If he could play 4 quarters of football, he would arguably be in the A tier, but he kind of just shows up in the end of the game. But regardless, this is a guy that just continues to get better. The talent's obviously there. The young guys are building up with him. It's going to be a year or two under Ben Johnson. I think this is a perfect spot.
Yeah, I love it. I think, people will look at like DJ Moore being gone, they'll take a knock on Williams' value. If Williams just completes more passes that are layups, his fantasy value just goes to the roof. He was so inconsistent last year because he wasn't hitting layups, and his passing volume and his passing yard production were just non-existent. He's still an elite rusher. They're going to be playing, in tighter games, it almost feels like this year based on their schedule. I think Williams is in for a nice year, and I love him in this low end quarterback one range. I might be out of pocket for this, and this might be just a little too early, but I'm chasing upside in my drafts, Bryce. I mean,
I knew you were going that way. I knew you were
I mean, are we
going.
really gonna lie and be like, hey, Kyler Murray with Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, and this offensive talent in Minnesota, is he really going to fail and fall on his face? Because the coordinators that he had, Cliff Kingsbury, he was a quarterback one, right? The production, while it wasn't consistent, he was a quarterback one. Drew Petzing was an absolute nightmare for this guy's value, and he became a check down merchant. He gets his weapons back. He gets an offensive coach that's catered to quarterback play. He still has the rushing upside. He's been able to recover from this injury for quite some time. If he wins the job over JJ McCarthy, I'm not taking him over any of the other guys that are available behind him. I'm just saying that right now. He's got the upside of maybe more upside than some of the guys in the C tier.
No, I completely agree there. And I knew you were going that route. This next one, you might cringe a little bit, but I have to. It's Bo Nix. Uh,
Okay.
I don't love him from an overall quarterback perspective. Like, if I'm a Broncos fan and I'm excited to pay him trillion of dollars next year? No, probably not. But for fantasy, like he checks all the boxes. They have an elite O line for him. He was the QB7 last year, so the numbers are obviously there. The wide receiver core wasn't that good, and he was still doing that. Now they had Jalen Waddle. He's on a contract year. Probably some extra motivation for him, even mentally, coming off that injury and wants to get back. So I definitely think Bo deserves to be here, even if I don't love him from a regular NFL talent standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle's only going to help him, right? I think he's similar to Caleb, where he missed so many layups last year. If he just becomes a more consistent guy, he still has that rushing upside. The schedule is going to get much tougher for this Broncos team entering this year. I think he's a great late round guy that I would target. He's not a player like last year where I'm finding him in the middle rounds and being like, yeah, I got to have Bo Nix. That's just not the case this year. I'm still have my concerns with him, but the situations around him is better. The last quarterback I want to include in this part of the C tier is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy won leagues last year, and it wasn't just because he was a great passer. He finally had some rushing upside as well. Now they had Mike Evans. You got Ricky Pearsall there. George Kittle would be back midseason. Christian McCaffrey. The O line was improved. Kyle Shanahan's still there. Like Purdy's fantasy value when he's been on the field has been quarterback one worthy. And last year he showed that down the stretch and won a lot of people leagues. Brock Purdy deserves that consideration right inside, right outside the top 12 because he does have that top 5 upside because Kyle Shanahan is that good as a head coach. And heading into this D tier, Bryce, we have a lot of names still
I
available here. Which
I
ones
kn-
stand out to you that
the,
fit well in this D tier?
I was gonna bring this up. There's three guys that like it's hard not putting him in that tier above because the production they had last year, and we can kind of talk this over. But just the three guys I want to hit on are Stafford, Herbert, and who's the last one? Stafford, Herbert, and T Law. I mean, T Law was QB4 last year. Stafford was QB3, and I feel like we're disrespecting them a little bit. Obviously, new year, new everything, but I mean, these guys balled out and kind of where do they should they go up or what? You thinking?
I actually really like where they are. I think so Stafford, he has no rushing upside. Last year was about as perfect as it could be for his fantasy value. I expect him to regress a little bit.
Yep.
He's in a situation where it kind of depends on his value. I could see him, being overdrafted this year just based on him coming off an MVP season. Herbert's an interesting case. I still don't love the offensive line. His fantasy production has never been consistent throughout his career. It's felt like he's had like maybe a spike month or two, and then Herbert's been a really frustrating fantasy option. And then Trevor Lawrence. I do think this Jaguars team hasn't really done a lot this offseason to make me impressed. And, while Trevor was good down the stretch in terms of like how he actually played, his fantasy production wasn't crazy. He still was a low end quarterback one where he had one spike week there where he had those 5 or 6 touchdowns. Outside of that, he wasn't great in fantasy. So honestly, you could call the D tier regression category almost, with
Yeah.
Herbert just kind of being there because we don't really trust the offensive line. He's never been a consistent option.
No, I respect that. I definitely agree with Stafford because, like you said, Stafford, no rushing upside. He has to play near perfect football, which he did last year, but it's hard to repeat. Herbert, I'm very mixed on because I love the McDaniels ad. I do believe in this offense as a whole. I do believe in him as a whole. But like you said, too, very inconsistent in fantasy from a year-to-year basis. I don't mind that. T Law's the one guy that if I had the clicker, I would have threw him up. It's just the T Law for me is started his career disappointing, and then he just got better, better, better. And then Liam Cohen stepped in this year, and just kind of things were clicking. And then they go out and get Jacoby Myers, so now he has a better receiving core. He's clicking with his coach better, and now no ETN. I mean, who's to say it's not more of a pass first offense even more now with Tuin back there? So I just really like T Law as a player. I believe in him. I've always believed in him. And I think his best football is really only ahead of him. And I know the spike week definitely helped his QB4 finish, but I do also think that speaks volume as well.
Yeah, I think with in terms of E though, we look at these guys available here, and some guys that Goff has got to be in there. You got Jordan Love in there as well. Malik Willis will get mixed in there as well. And I'm looking at some of these other guys, they're just not. Tyler Shuck is another one that I think we haven't really glossed over. I think is probably in that D tier, and I'll talk about him in a second. You got Baker in here that fits as well. Sam Darnold probably not really draftable despite his great season last year. And then we'll throw a little flavor in there with Fernando Mendoza in that E category. But in terms of like these guys, Shuck is the one I'm most intrigued with. He's one of my favorite late round guys entering the year. I loved his upside towards the end of the year with his legs. The Saints offense got much better as the year went along. Let's see what they add because they still need another pass catcher. They added Travis Etienne already. We'll see where Tyler Shuck winds up shaking out, but I do love his upside this year, but he's very unproven. As far as the E category goes, Jared Goff, probably some regression with Drew Petzing as his coach. He's been really steady as a fantasy option, but never great. Jordan Love never has the passing volume to be great. Malik Willis, who is he throwing to in Miami? Sure, he may run 10 times a game, but
I'm
we
not
saw
no
last year with
put
Justin
put in
Fields how bad that could be.
put in Malik there kind of shocked me. I wouldn't touch that guy with a 30-foot pole after I see that receiving core, but I'm here for it.
Facts, facts.
Throwing
So
me
then you
me
got
and you out
Baker.
there.
What are your thoughts on Baker and Fernando?
Uh Baker Baker's always weird to me because I feel like he's such an up and down guy. Like even last year, he looked so good. He was an early MVP, and then downhill he went. And I feel like that's kind of how he is to a year basis. And I never really have interest in drafting him, but I think he definitely deserves to be in the category of these guys. And then Mendoza, similar to Shuck, it's an upside play. If Mendoza can play to his first overall potential, of course he's going to be there. Brock Bowers will light up the league, but. I agree with that. I think the only one is like Malik. Like, unless they had wide receivers, but right now I just can't see him even throwing for 2,000 yards in the whole season with this core. So he's gonna be like a
2,000 yards would be a stretch.
1,800 pass yards and 1,800 rush yards. Maybe.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of these other guys. I want to get your thoughts on. Man, I just had him in my head and I forgot it when we were talking about that.
The one guy I want to bring up because I know you're definitely in on a year two. I think you're in on a year two breakout, but Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk about that because I'm in, but I think you're a little bit more than me right now. So
So the two guys I was actually like thinking about that borderline E category is Cam Ward and then Jacoby Brissett. So the interesting one with Ward is that he is incredibly talented, was very inconsistent last year, but Tennessee has only improved their weapons. I know it's just Wandell Robinson, but he gets Brian Dable, which should help him in his passing volume. He's a late round flyer, but that's also a team like in the draft. Let's say they go Jeremiah Love and they snag Omar Cooper in the second. Okay, I'll buy into Cam Ward. But if they go out of this draft and go defense, 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 it's going to be hard for Cam Ward in a tough division with two really good defenses between the Texans and then the Jaguars last year to have like enough fantasy consistency for me to say, I'll pull a late round trigger on Cam Ward. And then Jacoby Brissett's interesting just because I think that, the passing volume alone last year was gaudy. He's got pass catchers all around him. Maybe he's worth a flyer. Maybe he's not worth it. I don't know. It's just spitballing here, seeing, if Jacoby is worth that investment because he was great down the stretch.
I totally agree with both of those. The thing with Cam Ward too is it's just going to depend on really how the draft goes for him. Like pretty much copy and paste what you just said. And then Brissett, it's hard not to like him, to be honest, because of the passing volume. Last year, he was a legit starter the last 5 weeks because they would just get down and he would fling the ball 50 times. And I don't know about you, but I think that's going to be similar to this year. That defense is very mid. The team is not good as a whole, and solid catchers. I mean, Michael Wilson, MHJ, and Trey McBride is a more than doable trio for him to put up numbers once again. So I like both those there.
Yeah, and this is our tier list for now. We know we're gonna get something about like maybe like, oh, Sam Darnold was great last year. How is he not on the tier list? Well, they don't throw the ball that much in Seattle, and Rashid Shaheed. We'll see if he has a bigger role this year, but who knows? Like, in
I'm on
Daniel
the
Jones
Seattle
coming
hate
off an
watch.
injury, CJ Stroud still doesn't have an offensive line. Things can change though, Bryce. Things can change over time, but right now, those are our tier list, guys. Drop a comment down in the comment section below what your thoughts were on this list. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz fantasy football content. Me and Bryce will catch you all next time.